Sure. Good to see everybody. Thanks for coming. You guys got to keep coming on these Tuesdays because they are just beautiful, beautiful days to be out there practicing with the guys. It was definitely a good Saturday as well. Really good win for our program. And one of those wins that I think is good both internally and externally. So internally, we're still figuring out who we are a little bit. And we had a nationally ranked FCS team. We had a nationally ranked FBS team. And then we finally had a team that was an FBS team that was more on par with ourselves in terms of resources, institutional commitment, things of that nature. And it was great to go out there and take care of business in front of the home crowd. And externally, this is a school that we compete against in recruiting. It's a peer institution to UB in a lot of ways. We do a lot of recruiting over in Massachusetts and the Boston area, Connecticut. We're very heavy into all the prep schools in New England. So to get a win like that helps us on a lot of different fronts. We've got some guys that I can't talk about that are committed from New England. So anytime you're able to sort of strengthen the perception of your program and continue to build your resume as a young program, as a new staff, those things are always very helpful. The game really sort of played out the way we thought it would. And that doesn't always happen, but this was one of those games, if you go back and look at your notes during the week and say, these things need to happen, these things will probably happen, they sort of did. We needed to get off to a good start offensively. We did that. We made some plays on the outside in some one-on-one situations and got some chunk plays, scored early. So that was huge to sort of set the tone for the day. We certainly hit a little bit of adversity offensively, but the way we stayed patient with the run game and were able to finish and really dominate the time of possession in the fourth quarter, score in the fourth quarter was really big. From a defensive standpoint, great job holding them to under 200 total yards. We had 12 tackles for loss or sacks. So we did a great job of being disruptive and getting them off schedule, which was really a big part of the plan because we knew they wanted to stay methodical and stay on the field. We forced them to punt 8 times. They didn't get any points after the offensive turnover, so a chance for them to get some momentum and close the gap before the half. They walked away empty-handed, and then, of course, the interception return was really, I think, a backbreaker. So good job defensively. Special teams, overall, it was a solid day. It could have been a lot more productive. We came really close to blocking 3 punts in that game. Would have loved to have gotten one of those. So we still have a long way to go. Coming close to blocking a punt is like the old saying about horseshoes and hand grenades, right? So we got to improve there. Got to take advantage of those opportunities. We had some decent punt returns, but then we had a holding penalty, which really was a 40-yard swing in field position. So we went from getting the ball on our own 44 to starting a drive inside our own 5-yard line, which ended up being a 3-and-out. So that was a huge swing. And if not for that penalty, the game's probably a shutout, right? Which would have been really nice. And the lesson there is, yes, we played well, and this was probably the most cohesive, comprehensive, complementary game that we played, but things are going to start to get a lot more challenging here real soon, starting this week and in consecutive weeks after this. And when you shoot yourself in the foot like we did on that punt return, sometimes you're going to look back on a Sunday and say that's the difference in winning or losing a game. So we've got to keep learning from those things. I think we're starting to get a sense for who we are. I think we're a pretty tough team. I think we're a pretty physical team. We are a resilient team. We handle adversity pretty well. I think we're showing that we will play for 60 minutes. But at the same time, we've got a lot of areas to improve. our technique, our understanding of the technique, our application of the technique, the consistency in which we use the technique. And we've got to understand here that the margin of error moving forward here is going to be razor thin. So the good news was the guys showed up on Sunday, and I felt like they had a business-like approach. There was no, extended celebration of UMass. I'm sure they had a good time on Saturday night, which they certainly deserve to have. But they came in here at 3 o'clock on Sunday, and they were ready to get back to work and learn from their mistakes and move on to Northern Illinois. Northern Illinois, I can tell you, they've only played 2 games, but they definitely look as good as advertised. They are a very tough, physical veteran team. I think they're executing at a really high level through 2 games. I don't mind saying publicly I did vote for them in the top 25 in this week's poll. I'm sure there are some members of their fan base who would probably love to have seen me voted for them higher than I did. I know they have a passionate fan base, but I do think they're deserving of it based on what they've done through the first 2 weeks. And I think it's a really good team in all 3 phases. It's a veteran team. Up front, I love their offensive line. They've got an all Wisconsin offensive line, every starter, and I think a couple guys in the 2 deep are from Wisconsin. So that must be by design. But as a former O-lineman, enjoy watching those guys play and how cohesive they are. They do a great job with their zone schemes, with their gap schemes, with their play action passes, and it all starts up front. Their center's very athletic. Ontario Brown, the running back number 1, is a big, stout, athletic guy. He had almost 200 yards of total offense against Notre Dame, catches the ball extremely well out of the backfield, very physical runner. Their quarterback, number 2, Hampton, this guy is super efficient. I mean, this is exactly what you want out of a quarterback. He's a really good decision maker. He's a very accurate thrower. He's completing a high percentage of his passes. He's a great fit for their system. He's a above average runner as well. Their wide receivers do a great job of turning basic stuff into explosive plays. They are one of the nation's leaders in yards after contact after they catch the ball. They'll get into some big personnel groups that you've got to do a great job of knowing who's in the game. They'll play up to 4 tight ends. So this is a very good offense, very much in the tradition of strong NIU run, play action, pass type offenses. Defensively, they're a very deep, cohesive unit. I think it starts up front. They've got 4 defensive tackles that they roll through in there, 8, 0, 51, 10. I mean, these guys all look like they should be bouncers at some high-end bar with, like they can't quite button their shirt and get their tie up tight because their necks are so big. I mean, these are some rugged-looking dudes that handled themselves really well in that game against Notre Dame. Really love the way their safeties fit the run and tackle. They're really good tacklers, 15 and 9. And then their corners are really good cover corners. And they'll play a nice balance of zone and man. And when those guys are in zone, they're not loose. I mean, they're still locking people down and tight in coverage. And then from a special team standpoint, it just goes to show you what a veteran team this is. So you turn on the film and you're studying their special teams, and I'll just give you one random example. The left guard on their punt team is the same left guard that was on their punt team last year. All right, and that just doesn't happen much in college football, right? I mean, I don't know if we've played the same left guard on the punt team 3 games in a row. So they've got the same guy who's played 13 games last year and now 2 games this year. So there's a peace of mind as a head football coach, as a coordinator, when you've had guys that you've invested all that time, effort, energy into all those reps, and they've been in the same system, and you've got those guys back. And you can advance, it's ABCs. Well, you can easily get to the DEFs when you've got guys that have been in your system a long time and really understand the ABCs. So the challenge for us is we've got to continue to do a better job with the ABCs and then be able to move on to the DEFs to step up and take on the challenge of playing a team like this. And we're excited about it. We really are. And the week's off to a good start. And we're looking forward to getting into conference play. But we also fully understand that it's going to be a heck of a challenge ahead of us. So with that said, I'll open it up for questions.
Pete, your team's facing a second-ranked opponent in 3 weeks. I know the non-conference games planned months and years in advance. The polls each week, coaches and AP Top 25 come together. But how do you kind of work the luck of the draw to your advantage as preparing here for Northern Illinois?
Yeah, you just control what you can control, right? So schedules, like you said, schedules are made long in advance. I've coached in this league before, so I've seen how those things play out. Out of conference schedules done years in advance. They ended up with a bye after a big win. Quite frankly, for us, I think we needed to get back and play a game after Missouri, and so it was great to respond the way we did and to come out of the UMass game with some confidence. But we also understand that this isn't going down to the pond fishing for bluegills this week. This is a real deal team that we're playing. That's a quote from Jaws, by the way. Captain Quint.
Good to know. Northern Illinois is ranked. Toledo beat Mississippi State. How did the last couple of weeks and UB being in this help the profile of the map?
Sure. Well, this league is known for doing just that. I still have the old pirate flag from my days at Ball State. When you beat Indiana or you beat Virginia or you beat South Florida back in the BCS days, we had that old pirate flag, and it's great to see some other teams in our league being able to wave that flag and pull off those upsets. But one thing you really try very hard to do as a football coach is not compare scores. I'm sure, it'd be easy to say, hey, UMass played Toledo close, and then Toledo blew out Mississippi State and this and that. And every week you could just drive yourself crazy comparing scores. So every game is its own entity. Every two teams match up differently. There's so many different factors at play with injuries and weather and strengths and weaknesses of teams. We all study these analytics, but you can only study that stuff to a certain point, because at the end of the day, you got to go play the game, right? And it's human beings that are making these decisions. So, it's great for the league, and it seems to be a very competitive year for our league. I hope we're part of that competitiveness.
What do you think of the schedule changes in the MAC and no more divisions? And I think you're playing 5 West teams, 5 former West teams among your 8 games.
Yeah, again, just control what you can control. And we're certainly starting off with a blue blood marquee opponent here in the league, which is great. And we just approach weeks the same way. I don't know what else to tell you. Like, we're not going to approach this week any different than last week. Yeah, there's different parts of the game plan, to attack certain opponents. There's different matchups and all those things, but you're always reading the pulse of your team. Or there's certain things we need to do more of or less of, or push a little harder here, back off a little bit there. But to me, the most important thing about these game weeks is the consistency of them.
Pete, in the kind of the day and age of the recruiting details and analytics and stuff, how does a guy like Marquise Cooper fall through a lot of cracks to wind up here, and then not only wind up here, but be on your field and making the plays that he made all season, but Saturday obviously?
Yeah, it's great to see guys continue to develop. That's what it's all about. I'm 54, and I hope in some way, shape, or form I get a little bit better today than I was yesterday. You keep learning, you keep pushing, and Marquise Cooper is a competitor. and he is going to come out and try to be the best version of himself every day. He's still learning. He's got a lot of room to improve and become more detailed from a technical standpoint. But the thing is he's going to go hard. He loves the game. He's passionate. He competes. So those are a lot of really good raw materials to work with.
The defense is really finding its footing so far. First off, how does it continue its consistency? Is that a matter of building and maintaining habits, leaning on older guys like Sean Dolak, George Wallow, and Marcus Fuqua, or is there something else that goes into that?
I think it picks up right where that last question left off, and that's just continued development, continued striving to improve, never getting satisfied. We've got to continue to build our depth because it's going to be a long season. You can't expect Red Murdoch and Sean Dolak to play every snap at linebacker the next 9 weeks. So there's a lot that goes into it, but I think Joe Bowen's doing a great job leading that unit. Our assistant coaches on that side of the ball are coaching our guys hard, but they're building great relationships with them. So there's good cohesiveness to that unit. There's a little bit of an edge about that unit, which I like. I mean, that's going back to the spring, even before Sean transferred in. I feel like that unit was starting to develop a little bit of an attitude about it in a good way. But believe me, we're not going to let them get comfortable.
Talking about the coaching and the relationships, you said, the players come in at 3 p.m. Sunday ready to go. There's some people who say that's the coaching staff's job. So how much easier does that make it on the staff preparing for a big game like this? Yeah,
it's all about surrounding yourself with the right people at every level of the organization. And when you have people that want to be here and are about the right stuff, and my job is to try to keep them all on the same page, keep them thinking the same way. There's always going to be some surprises. There's always going to be some things that happen that you're like, what about this or what about that? But if you keep investing in your people and building your foundation and trying to strengthen your foundation, then when things are a little bit out of the ordinary, Thursday morning we came in here, we had a video issue. We had to flip our meetings around and go to our side of the ball and position meetings before our special teams meeting, and nobody blinked. We just adjusted. Hey, it's good. Kind of pushed us out of our comfort zone a little bit. No problem. We flipped things around. Everything stayed on schedule. We still finished at 11:30 the way we were supposed to. All that. So, that's just the way things go. And I think that starts with me trying to be the same guy every day, and then it filters right on down to the student assistants and everybody else.
A lot of times with a new coaching staff, it can maybe take a year or a period of years to feel like you get the right people around you and the right people on the roster. Why do you think maybe it seems like you've been able to accomplish that?
Well, first of all, I think there were some good people here and some good people that stayed. And that includes some of the guys that we retained on the coaching staff. I feel really, really good about all the people that we kept. And their ability to buy in and get on board, and this whole idea that sort of less is more. We don't need a lot of, sayings up on walls and, stuff on T-shirts and all that. We just want to be about the real stuff. And I think that just starts with having good people and people that want to be here, people that believe you can be successful here, people that like living here. And when the kids are around that every day, then all of a sudden they feel like they can be themselves and they can come in the door with a smile on their face. And yeah, there's going to be some moments, where you're out there on the practice field and we're coaching hard and doing all that, but they understand that we care. And so to me, that's I think the biggest thing we're taking away from this season is that we have a lot of good people that care, that want to be here. And if you have that, I mean, I have no idea. All we're guaranteed right now is that we've won 2 games, right? But however this thing plays out, however it pans out, I do feel good about that part of year one. And from there, we'll just take it week to week.
Pete, Nick McMillan didn't play last week. Do you have a long-term prognosis or diagnosis?
I'm so glad you asked me about injuries because I actually had a note right here
Sure you did.
to tell Rachel about injuries today. So how about that? So yeah, so Nick is still out, and anticipate him being out. Jaden Oliver is also out. James McNeil, who has been out, is progressing nicely, and I don't know how soon we'll have him back, but he continues to recover nicely from a foot injury that he had, and hope to have him back at some point here in the not too distant future. So that's sort of our injury update in advance of NIU.
And yeah, with Nick's absence against UMass, we really saw kind of the depth of the rotation of the wide receivers. Why is that good, especially as you're going into the start of the
Yeah, so I think you actually might have been the one that asked about J.J. Jenkins, and then here he goes. He steps up in first drive of the game. He ran 21 miles an hour on that play, and beat their corner deep for a touchdown. Really well thrown ball by CJ, and that's what this game is all about. This game is all about opportunity. It's all about stepping up when opportunities present themselves. It's all about us trying to find the right guys, the right pieces, put them in position to be successful. And that's the beauty of this game. I think that's why it reflects on life so much. All right, thank you.